Hello, today we are going to learn how to use this architecture scale. First of all, you're going to notice there's a lot of numbers. It's very similar to a ruler, but it differs in many ways. So here we have a half-inch scale. We have a 1/8 inch scale here, a 1 inch scale, quarter-inch scale, and if you keep rotating, you'll see all these number of scales here. So first of all, before you start measuring, you have to understand that this one right here with the 16, this is a regular ruler. Why is it a regular ruler? Well, this right here from this 0 to this 1 is 1 inch. So why does it have the number 16? Well, if you count every single dash in between the 0 and the 1, you notice it takes 16 steps to get to the 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16 is the 1 inch mark. So each dash is 1/16. That's what this number here represents. Now for the other scales, these numbers represent something different. That means every 1.5 inches on my piece of paper is going to equal to 1 foot in real life. So if we were to use the 1 inch scale right here, this means right here, the symbol over here on this worksheet is 1 inch on my piece of paper is equal to 1 foot in real life. So let's go ahead and start with the first one. We already have the answer here, but let's go ahead and confirm. It says 5 feet 6 inches. So very similar to a ruler, you always start measuring from 0. So first is you have to find the correct scale. So in this case, we found the number 1 because it's 1 inch equals 1 foot. We start measuring from 0. And we can't just look at the number. We can't just look at it and say, oh, that's 10. That must be 10 feet. That's not how this works. There's two sets of numbers. There's a number on the top and there's numbers on the bottom. Some of these numbers correspond to the 1 inch scale that's read from left to right. And some of the numbers correspond to the half-inch scale that's across the other side. These are measured from right to left. So you notice how from here it's 0, 2, 4. So this half-inch scale is read from right to left. The 1 inch scale on this particular scale here is read from left to right. So we're going to start from 0. Again, the answer is not 10. We can't just look at that number. We have to count. So notice how if we count, that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it does not reach the 6. This line is not long enough to reach the 6-foot mark. So this line is 5 feet and a couple of inches. So let's go ahead and figure out how many inches that is. We're going to go ahead and we're going to scoot the scale to the closest whole number. So we're going to go ahead and move the scale over to the 5 because it's the biggest whole number. It doesn't reach the 6. So that's going to be 5 feet and 6 inches. We read the inches off from right here. So 5 feet 6 inches. So let's go ahead, now that we have this answer here, let's go ahead and do the next line. The next line, once again, we follow the same steps. We start from 0. Notice how we're still using the same scale, 1-inch scale. We're going to start from 0, and we're going to count. Because if I don't count, I'm going to think that 14 must be the whole number and scoot it over to the 14, but that would be incorrect. We need to count from left to right. 0, 1, 2, 3, and it does not reach the 4. We need to scoot this scale over to the 3-foot mark. So this line here is 3 feet 9 inches. So let's go ahead and write that down. So the way we would write that down would be like this: 3 feet, it's a symbol for feet, dash 9 inches. And then what we need to do is we need to go ahead and include some of these dimension lines. So I'm not going to be too picky with these. Just go ahead and draw a little vertical line to indicate the starting point and the ending point. You get your straight edge. And you're going to leave a little gap in the middle for your numbers. So get a straight edge, and then go ahead and just make a straight line, leaving a gap in the middle for your numbers. So this line here, oops, I went a little too far. Pretend this is not here. I messed up a little bit, couldn't see past the camera. So let's go ahead and measure, start from 0. Again, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, and it doesn't quite reach the 5, so we're going to scoot it over to the 4, and that looks to me to be 1 inch. So how do I know that's 1 inch? Well, that's 3, that's 0. And notice how there's two big lines in between. So I need to do a little bit of math here. So that's 0. What numbers must these be in order to get to 3 in 3 steps? Well, that's pretty easy. That's going to be 1, 2, 3. Therefore, that big line right here, this first big line, is 1 inch. Now, notice how there's another medium-sized line here between the 0 and the 1. So which one, how long would that line be? That would be ½ an inch. And there's another little tiny dash in between. That would be 1/4 of an inch. So in this case, we would write 4 feet, 1 inch. Once again, we will write that 4 feet, 1 inch. And then once again, we'll indicate the starting and the ending marks here. Let's see if I can do it better here now. There we go. Now that I'm facing it. Should look like this. 4 feet, 1 inch. Alright, for this rectangle, we're going to need to do 2 measurements, the length and the width of this. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, make sure we're in the same scale. We're still using the 1 inch scale. So we'll go and start from 0. Again, we can't just read it off. That would be 18. That would be incorrect. We need to count. So we're going to start from the 0 and measure over 1. It doesn't reach the 2, so we're going to scoot it over to the 1 foot mark right there. And that looks to be 1 foot and 6 inches. So we're going to go ahead and write that down. 1 foot, 6 inches. Once again, we're going to indicate the starting and the ending of that line. We're going to get our straight edge here. We're going to leave a little bit of space for our numbers. 1 foot and 6 inches. Let's go ahead and measure the height of this. Let's start from 0. And this one's going to be a little bit interesting. Notice how it's just shy of that 1 foot mark. If you were one of my students and you told me that was 1 foot, I would give you credit for it. But it's just shy of the 1 foot mark. If we really look at it, if we really try to analyze it and zoom into this. And so in this case, what we would do is we would go ahead and we would just do it the opposite way. We would go ahead and start from 0. And we will count off the inches from here. So this big line here at the very end, that's 12 inches, or 1 foot. So you notice how it doesn't quite touch that. And we said that if this is 9, we said these big lines here are each 1 inch, so that's 9, 10, 11. That's 11 and a half. It's 11 and 3/4 right there. So it just misses 12 inches. Again, if you told me that this was 1 foot, I would give you credit for it. But if you want to be more precise, we can do 11 and 3/4 of an inch. So we'll go ahead and write that like that. So once again, let's go ahead and indicate the starting and ending point of this. Now let's go ahead and we're going to skip a few here. We're going to go ahead and go to the next scale, the half-inch scale. Now we're going to measure from right to left. So let's go ahead and start from the 0. Make sure we're in the correct scale first. So that's half-inch scale. Start from the 0. And again, let's go ahead and count. That's 2, 4, 6. We're using the top numbers. But this one's very interesting because notice that's the 2 and this is a 10. But it's also a 1. This 0 and that 2 have a line right in the middle. And that line right in the middle is a 1. Notice how there's a line right in the middle of this 2 and this 4. This is 9 feet if we were measuring from left to right, but it's also 3 feet if we're measuring from right to left. So we can count it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And notice how we don't reach the 7. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to scoot it over to the 6. So this would be 6 feet. And now we have no numbers here. But the same concept applies. That's 0, and this large line over here at the very end is 12. If that's 0 and this is 12, then this big line right here in the middle is halfway between 0 and 12, which means this is 6. So this is 6 inches. And notice how between the 0 and the 6, there's 2 large lines here between the 0 and the 6. So how do I get from 0 to 6 in 3 steps? How do I get 1, 2, 3? Well, it looks to me like each one of these large lines is 2 inches. So 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches. 6 feet, 2.5 inches. Let's go ahead and indicate the starting point, the ending point, and then we're going to make a straight line, leaving a little gap for the numbers. So this should be enough information for now. I want you to go ahead and complete the rest of the worksheet on your own. Let me know if you have any questions, comment down below, and I'll answer those questions as soon as possible. Thank you.